pulled up my book today. In a hole. Great job,
It's all because of your son. There's no way you want without him.
That's my good luck time.
There's no way.
Yeah.
Melissa, it's not on this. No, it's what I, yeah.
God bless you, he is adorable. He delivered it well.
Oh, yeah.
So you're doing them at that age, then, the only one.
Permitted use, so if you're allowed to do it, you're allowed.
Grandpa got an input on it?
And there are certain things you have to have a permit for,
They
but
say run far.
broad enough that it encompasses
Who knows?
other things.
You never know.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, everybody, welcome to Common Council Pre-Caucus meeting of November 3rd, 2021. We're going to get started with resolution number 1, naming the municipal pool in North Utica the Esther Fitzgerald Swimming Pool to honor her public service in the city of Utica. I'm going to assume that this is going to be full council.
If anybody wants to do that,
I'll
that's
put my
fine.
name on it. Does anybody?
We're not actually naming it, we're just it was already named after her, the old pool, and then they built a new pool and they never transferred the name over. So,
Okay.
So it's a reading.
Rename.
Good work, Joe.
Reinforcing.
Next is ordinance number 2. Through streets, ordained that section 2-16-357 Schedule B through streets be amended as followed. Tilden Ave from the intersection of Eagle to Tilden. Be it further ordained that the proper signage be erected where necessary.
This is
Just-
between Joe Beatrice, Councilman Beatrice's district and mine, and we're just clearing up some ambiguities in our code.
Thank you.
And I like the little giggle that Councilwoman's friend is getting.
I just appreciate the effort you put into going out there and looking at all the stop signs. I'm going to catch up to you any minute now, I promise.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But you can't. I got too ahead of you.
Oh, that sounds like a challenge.
All right, let's go.
Challenge accepted. Ordinance number 3, Councilman Beatrice, intersection where stop required. It is to include Bleecker Street and Tilden Ave, all corners, 4-way stop at each intersection. I'm going to assume this is cleaning.
Yes.
Yep, clean up.
And please inform our sign department that there's no. Thank you.
Next is ordinance number 4, Councilmember Friend, rescind chapter 2-5, article 3, foul. Would you like to speak on this?
It's just that there are still a couple of ordinances on the books that now contradict the new zoning ordinance. So I just want to go out and take those out in order to clear up some confusion. So we had a case a few months ago where somebody got cited for the old law despite the fact that the new law superseded it. So I'm just trying to take a couple old things off the books that have now been replaced within the new zoning ordinance.
Any questions or concerns on
There's
this?
a process to change it. I think our corporate council may want to clarify.
Yeah, we're actually in the process of amending that section of the zoning ordinance anyways. So if possible, just to let this sit for a little bit, we're in the process of actually amending that one and might be putting things back in this section.
May have to go through the planning board.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. So we just can't change it. It's got a process to change.
So it's gonna go back to the original way where there's no chickens and bees, correct?
I believe so,
Okay.
but we
Thank
need
you.
we need the section that you're trying to rescind, I think, to put it back, so it,
Okay, well, just to be clear, when you say we're going to amend it, you mean you hope that we will amend it. We may not, right? It's not a-
correct. We're going through stuff with the zoning code that there's some inconsistencies and problems that we have, so, in speaking with Urban and Economic and their department, we've been making a list of kind of stuff, and that's one of the things on our list, but I think we might be taking it out of zoning, or recommending that it be taken out of zoning.
Recommending that it be taken out of the. That's
So
a big
before
difference.
we go ahead and do this,
So
they're going to do
right.
what they're doing.
Yeah, I understand that, but we currently have 2 laws on the books which contradict each other.
Correct.
Correct.
No doubt what your approach is absolutely correct,
There's one
and they want to just do
supersedes
it
the other.
legally, that's all.
But why
Answer
didn't
Frank's
Celeste
question.
know that? But why didn't Celeste know that?
Yeah, why is this, first of all, the first time hearing of this?
We actually just started our meetings 2 weeks ago, so I was just informed of kind of the running list of.
Okay. I'd like to the answer to Councilman DeBrango's question.
Does one supersede the other?
As a matter of law, does the more recent one take precedence over the earlier one?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I can't concretely say that, but I believe so.
Okay.
Still want
So-
conflicting laws in our books, that's all.
Well, but we have them, so we should get rid of them by rescinding this one. And if then we want to change the zoning, amend the zoning ordinance, we do that as a separate act, right? As long as,
Correct.
until we rescind this, we have conflicting laws on the books. So why not go ahead and rescind this, and then if we want to revisit it later, we will. People got cited for breaking the law when they hadn't. It's a problem.
The, o-
Can-
the
Can I-
only,
Forgot to put it on.
Can I take the floor for a minute?
Well, I believe corporate counsel
Majority
is
leader? Okay.
speaking, and then you can have the floor as soon
Sure.
as she's done.
the only thing I was gonna say is it's just easier as far as amending the zoning ordinance, because it has to go through planning board and a number of other steps, that if this is kept on and that's what we're gonna use, so we're not rescinding this and then amending the zoning ordinance 2 ways, because we'd have to.
But that's our decision.
Yeah, that's not, the planning board doesn't amend the zoning ordinance.
It's a process, yes. Before we can amend, once we vote on the zoning ordinance, any change in it
Right.
has to be done with the planning board's approval first.
Right, but we have already voted on the zoning ordinance. It is now a matter of law that people can have chickens and bees. That's a matter of law.
Only in certain areas.
Well,
not-
yeah,
Yeah.
the law has details to it, right, how many you can have, et cetera. But it is a matter of law. We already passed the zoning ordinance, which contains a passage about bees and a passage about fowl, and I'm rather surprised that anybody is raising this question now, almost a year after we passed that law. Like, did people not know that was in there?
Apparently they didn't.
So, can I have the floor?
You have the
so
floor.
far? All right.
I didn't know.
Well, two things. I just wanted to speak to the meetings that just started. Not only with this, but many other things like curb cuts, et cetera. I've been requesting for a couple months, and they've been saying they're going to start it up to do an overall review, because there are many other inconsistencies, which is why the meetings just started up most likely. Separate to that, though, Chapter 2.5 is not in the same section as the current zoning code, correct?
Correct, and that's why there was an.
Right, so just as a matter of process, 2.5 doesn't need the zoning code process to be rescinded. But what you're asking is to leave this chapter here so you can reuse this chapter and replace the text of it after the fact? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, because the way, I think it makes more sense to actually have it out of the zoning. It's kind of
Okay.
fitting, it fits in the zoning ordinance under supplemental regulations. It kind of fits better in the section that it currently is. That's why I was recommending that we.
Okay.
So.
So that's a right, well, no, I'm not done yet. So the recommendation from Corporation Counsel is that, however, there's no process stopping the council from taking the conflicting
Correct.
ordinance out right now, which in the meantime, it has been causing issues. And
But we don't want to put it back in again because council's going to amend our zoning ordinance. So we'd like to just refer to.
all right, well, that's up to you to discuss. I just wanted to re-clarify it all, so it just
Councilperson
was
Friend.
completely point blank.
You
I
have
just
the
want
floor.
to,
Thanks.
Corporation Council is not going to amend our zoning ordinance.
No.
Because only the council has the authority to amend the zoning ordinance. They may make recommendations, urban and economic development, anybody and their mother can make all the recommendations they want to. I just do want to say, the Corporation Council will not be amending the zoning ordinance. Only we will do that. And in the meantime, we have issues, literally, we look ridiculous when we pass a zoning ordinance that has some stuff in there, the supplemental regulations about chickens and bees. I put it twice in my newsletter that, hey, guess what, folks, you can have chickens now. People go out and get chickens, and a week later get cited by codes. That makes us look incompetent.
I actually went on the radio about it as well because
Thank
it
you.
was like a 2-year process that we were working that into the new code, just so
There's-
everyone's aware.
There's no reason that we can't rescind this, and if you'd like to use the text later, save the paper, and we can use the text later. But we should not leave two laws on the books that are in conflict with each other, and that leave the codes department, it's the codes department writing citations for people, and I have to call up the codes commissioner and say, hey, we've got a new law, and he has to say, well, can you send me a screenshot of that? and I have to do that. That's
Okay.
just not how we should proceed.
So at this point, that way there we can move forward. Who is in favor of passing this tonight? Just to see if it's something that's going to
rescind it.
talk about it, or if we'd like corporate counsel to go over it, give us their suggestion, and move forward so we have something that's legal in front of us.
Majority Leader, I'd like to refer it to committee for now.
Anybody else like to refer it to committee?
I think there's too much confusion right now. Like she said, there is two separate laws here. But I think if we do put it in committee, I don't think 2 weeks is gonna hurt. Let's discuss it, maybe have a committee meeting before we have our session next time, and we can go over it. Let's see what they come up with. I am not in favor of having chickens in the city. That's just me. I could just tell you, I mean, I don't know how many other cities do that. Do a lot of other cities do
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes.
I don't know if they do or not, but why not? They just attract, God forbid, a kid walks in their yard or whatever, or dogs or whatever, or the chicken gets loose, who knows? But we're too, the housing is too close to each other, the properties, it just doesn't seem right. I don't know.
Thank you. Councilman Beatrice, you have the floor.
Yeah, the only thing I want to ask Corporation Council is, if we put this in committee, I have no problem, even if we don't go the 2 weeks, I need you, if you guys are coming up with something, I'm agreeing 100% with Councilman DeMarango. I got enough problem with cats running around if people start having chickens in their backyard. So,
As soon as possible.
so if we can even do, I'll go along with put it in committee, but I need to see something either before our next meeting, or if you call a special meeting beforehand. Well, this is not something that we need to wait on, because I agree also with Councilperson Friend that we have two laws on there, and it makes us look foolish. So,
I'll push it as fast as I can. Like I said, I kind of got note of this in my last meeting, which was at
Right.
the end of last week, and then by the time I had some time to discuss it, we had the holiday and election day. So I'm in the process of moving it.
This one is time sensitive.
Yes.
We'll move forward.
This is I'd like I have to throw a point of order out there, even though it's not the main meeting yet. This is already in committee, so there's no like putting it in committee. Yeah, it's already sitting there, just so everyone knows.
what are
Yeah,
we asking for then?
Can I have the floor?
it's in the pre-meeting conference. It's in the committee of the whole. It's sitting.
Okay, so then.
Yeah, so just leave it in the committee of the whole.
You have the floor.
Thank you very much. I just wanted, the reason that this is now a law in the books is because on, I believe, February 3rd of last year, we all voted on a large, extensive zoning ordinance that included this language in it. It's a
And I-
little.
Yeah, I don't think
And I'm
anybody
gonna
is
agree with you, we
disputing that.
did.
No, I know.
But it
No,
did
no
slip
one is-
past me.
And it slipped past me.
And I
out of a
apologize. for that.
And
600
it's getting handled
I mean,
now.
that was
Yeah.
how many pages long? I mean, that thing-
675 pages, and the last thing
It was not 160 pages.
So I
Whatever.
feel like at this point, no one is dismissing your point. It's a great and valid point, but we want to make sure that we do it proper since the last time we did not. So at this point, we're going to have corporate counsel look at it, and I feel comfortable with doing that. I don't know if there's enough votes for that,
Refer to
but
committee.
it's in
Corporation
committee.
Counsel, would you, as you draft language for this, I want there to be a grandfather clause in there. There are people now who've made investments in order to have chickens since this law was passed, and we're not gonna screw them.
I will make a note and
And it's up to us to vote on the grandfather.
Okay, so at this point, this is going to stay in the committee. We're going to readdress it at the next council meeting. Maybe have a meeting beforehand to discuss it. Is that what you,
Hopefully our
So we'll have
council
a
get us the information
meeting
before
Are
beforehand?
you all good for 5 o'clock?
Also,
next time?
can I,
Yeah.
The whole-
Can I ask
just
one other
because it was
question?
so wrought with controversy, what Councilman Miola brought up about the process to change it, Councilperson Friend, if now that we passed the zoning code, we are gonna amend that zoning code to, if they're gonna recommend to take it back out and revert it so that bees and chickens are not allowed within the city, that part to go back is gonna have to go through that process. So it's not just gonna be a quick thing. So there's gonna have to be planning board meetings, recommendations. I believe there will have to be a public hearing, et cetera. So it won't just be a,
Councilman
Alright.
Beatrice, you
Yeah,
have the
Can
floor.
I just ask one question here, and please forgive me for asking? So this is under the new zoning here, it says agricultural urban is the only place where these cats and bees can be. Can somebody give me an example where a property is agricultural and urban where they can have chickens? What is an example of a property of in South Utica.
I don't think that the agriculture doesn't refer to properties. It is simply a heading of a chapter within the zoning ordinance. It's simply an organizational.
Okay, so you're
There's a whole
telling
bunch
me
of stuff
y-
under
y-
the agricultural.
So the
in
way this is
zoning
explained
ordinance.
to me is people in the city say, I'll use somebody in your area since you're bringing us, you're telling me a person, as of this new zoning that we passed, a person who lives on Emerson Ave can go buy 20 chickens and have them in their backyard?
No, if you were to go to the law, it specifies how many you can have in relation to how much space you have.
Can you have one?
Yes.
Any place in the city you can have a chicken.
I'd have to go
You
back
can
and
have
reread
chicken,
the
but
law.
you can't have cocks. Just saying.
True. You can have hens, but not roosters.
And I got an
Well,
issue
no,
with
that's,
that on.
I'm just,
No, it's true, you're right.
The noise.
you know,
Right.
because of the noise they cause, because of,
So we.
okay. So this is going to stay in committee, and you're going to work as hard as you can on this one. Moving forward, ordinance number 5.
Same thing?
Yep. Resolution number 6. This is full council. It is a resolution to honor the 100th anniversary of the founding of the United Way. Next is ordinance number 7, the sale of properties that were sold at public auction, 413 Deland Drive, in the amount of $65,000. Ordinance number 8, the sale of property at auction, 418 Woodburn Drive, in the amount of $51,000. Ordinance number 9, sale of property sold at public auction, 807 Utica Road, in the amount of $40,000. Ordinance number 10, sale of property sold at public auction, 909 Kellogg Ave, in the amount of $4,500. Ordinance number 11, the sale of property sold at public auction, 1,408 Kellogg Ave, in the amount of $46,000. Ordinance number 12, the sale of property sold at auction, 10 Forey Drive, in the amount of $75,000. Ordinance number 13, the sale of property sold at a public auction, 1,345 Lead Street, in the amount of $90,000. Ordinance number 14, sale of property sold at public auction, French Road Cemetery, 2 lots, in the amount of $2,000. Ordinance number 15, the transfer of funds from 2020-2021 fiscal year, CARES Act. It is going from B4558688-503, CARES Act Pandemic Stimulus Program, in the amount of $19,990, to B4558688-509, CARES Act Utica Green Teams, in the amount of $19,990.
Can I ask that, if this is in any way connected to, the Cornerstone Church in Oneida Square? If it is, I'm gonna ask that we table this or put it in committee to get information as to how those funds will be spent in that program and how it relates to the issue that we're having on Oneida Square.
I don't sit on E&A. Can you guys help us out with that?
I think it is. The
It would
green
be
team.
ordinance number 15.
I agree with those.
Council President and anyone who,
So I would rather,
They didn't mention that in the.
Yeah.
No, so
I
the
think
green
it is.
team does have something to do that. We approved the transfer to move the money. But as far as how the money is spent,
Right.
but
That's-
once we transfer it, they can use it however they'd like, and I
Exactly.
agree with
Right.
your
Agree with
position on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So do you know what it's specifically for when you guys did the transfer? Are you
I don't think they brought it up.
No, we talked about the fact that this was the Utica Green team, and they needed to reallocate the money from the pandemic stimulus because that's what they used it for. Using it for the purpose of paying the green team and funding that wasn't appropriate use of those funds, so we transferred the money. But as far as how it relates to now and in the near future of the Cornerstone Church and what they're doing with it, I can't speak to that.
Can you give us a summary? We'll keep it in committee until we get a summary.
Well, wasn't there, I was away that week.
Is it possible we can get a summary?
Yeah, yes,
We can
yes,
move off on that one.
absolutely,
So we can hold
absolutely.
on to this?
Yeah, it's not important.
Yep. Next would,
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, no problem.
next would be resolution number 16. Resolution appointing candidate for appointment to the Upper Mohawk Valley Regional Water Board, Richard Karam.
There was a little glitch in the language.
Term.
Yes, it didn't, what was it supposed to say legislator approval on it? In other words, we don't have to go to county and get final approval. There's one or two appointments on it that has to go through the county for final approval. So this just ratifies that the only person that has to approve it is the common council.
This one's ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next is legislation that is in committee. It is amending section 2-18-27 park rules regarding hours of operation, trespassing. Do we want to speak on this? We have a little bit of time. Maybe we talk about it. I know there was some bones of contention at the last meeting regarding this.
Corporate council's been working on an amendment that
Yeah.
hopefully she brought, and we can present it. Did you guys get a chance to make copies for the amendment for,
We will amend it and then pass it out if you like.
well, there's no sense of putting it on a paper. If you guys made a copy of it, let the council look at the amendment first, and if they feel comfortable in it, we might as well put it in legislative form, but if they don't, we'll go from there. How's that? We'll open up the discussion on it.
At this point, unless anybody has anything to talk about, we'll take a couple-minute break.
I'll just say that I'm a no on this legislation.
The new one?
Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm not going to be in the least
Okay.
bit sympathetic to changing the hours of the parks.
So at this point, we'll take a 5-minute break. Once she gets everything out to everybody, we'll resume.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody even want to entertain this?
No. What? I want to vote it down.
Councilman Beatrice is the only one who.
Well, I just was talking to my colleague here and his idea, and I guess these guys had the idea, so I'd rather have them talk their idea. I don't wanna, but I agree with what they're saying more than this.
All right,
So let Mark
Let us
explain where he's coming
hear
from.
what you got.
So the judge actually brought it up that we.
Hop on your microphone, please. Thank you.
The judge brought up that, we gotta have signs, we gotta protect the city, because if someone gets jumped in Proctor Park or something like that, that we can't get sued as a city because, for some reason. So that was a signage thing that you brought up, right, Judge? About putting signs in these parks, basically, you're at your own risk, basically, if you're gonna stay in here after dark. And that way the city's not liable. And that was what we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Also, I don't know if we're ever gonna go back to snowmobiling on the golf course. That happened during the Julian administration, and it was like pretty successful, and cross-country skiing and all that sort of thing. Those things, if the city authorizes them, then they will say it's authorized, and then the city has some responsibility of somehow going through there and making sure everything's okay. Once you assume that responsibility, but after the Julian administration, that activity stopped. And because I was in no position to ask why it stopped, it was probably had to do with the liability and policing and all of that, and not having any liability. So there hasn't been any snowmobiling or cross-country skiing around the golf course in my memory in quite a few years.
Judge, when was
Tim Julian mayor? From when to when?
Pardon me?
When was Mayor Julian's? What was his years?
He took office, let's see, 2002, that Hannah resigned, and during that period, he was elected to a full term in 2003, and he served in 2007. And I don't remember anything after that, but in any event, we had it, and then we stopped it. So I think that's why I brought up the permit idea, that if you're gonna use the tennis courts and it's gonna be after dark and there's a tournament going on, we should be allowed to have whoever's running the tournament ask for a permit, then the lights all go on, and the city of Utica police force knows the people are there, and probably have a little security around there. If there's a basketball tournament that should come after the fall, like this group has a tournament and they want to use the basketball courts, which are actually parks, even though they are parks. And if the people want to have a tournament, they get a permit, and then the lights go on and the police is in the area. I mean, we don't want to preclude anything, but we want to know when it's happening. I said earlier, if you're going for a walk late at night, you walk down a street where there's street lights and traffic goes by, and the chances of anything happening to you being undetected are rather remote. But you go places like the golf course and you're up there all by yourself at night at 10 o'clock, you're in trouble if something happens. Anyway, those were ideas that we passed along. And also, the one thing that isn't here that is which you have to decide of ultimately, you have to give the police department a quantitative idea what their authority is and when they should be doing something. And that's the same thing with your chicken argument. You have to tell the authorities when they are, who's trespassing. And we should have signs that if you pass anything along those that says that the parks are closed at sunset. I mean, it doesn't have to take a genius to know when that is. And sunrise, it's open, and it will change by the weather. So But I think the Utica Police Department gets very antsy about calling people trespassers when they don't see some ordinance that says they are trespassers. You know, I mean, in fairness to them, because those are the things to become confrontational. Person says, what are you bothering me for? Well, you're supposed to be here. Why? Because the city ordinance says so. And we're forcing city ordinance. Now, sometimes some people won't even accept that, and they get it confrontation. But at least there's some, in deference to the police department, they gotta know that what they're doing is correct, because they can't keep second guessing themselves, you know. And we shouldn't allow anybody, even citizens, not to have at least the opportunity to say, oh, I see the art, yeah, this is the art, I didn't know that. People don't know 90% of the laws you pass unless they affect them personally. So they don't have to worry about that, but the Corporation Counsel's Office, my responsibility to you as your legal counselor, I have to know that, and I have to talk about it, because I don't want somebody to say later, well, why didn't you say something? Well, I say something. Sometimes it makes people unhappy. Too bad. I'm not here to make people happy. I'm here to tell you about what the law is and give you guidance. What you decide ultimately is your job as legislators. That's not my job. I don't tell you not to do anything unless I think it's illegal or capricious. But other than that, what you pass
And we thank you for
comes
that,
out
Judge.
right. Corporation Counsel says, okay, it's okay with me. You know, I don't have to like it at all.
Councilperson,
And I think that's why this is not trivial legislation, this closing, this an opening. It's not trivial. Nothing you do is trivial, because everything you do is your job to do, and you should do it properly. And you don't have to just pass something right away because it makes the mayor happy or somebody else happy or some council person happy. You have to do what you think is good for the citizens.
thank you, Judge.
And that's about it. And whatever you decide, that's your job.
Sounds good. Councilperson Moody, you have the floor.
Thank you. Can I ask a clarifying question to Corporation Counsel? If a bad thing happens in our parks, stabbing, being jumped, the city is responsible for that action?
I don't think I heard your question.
If a negative thing happens, going to the sign argument, if a negative thing happens in our parks, the city is responsible? Question mark.
I think it depends on what exactly would happen, because there are some things, I mean, that we would be liable for, you know, certain negligence things, and it would
Sure.
be hard to tell, and we'd likely be named in a lawsuit.
Not
Whether or not
Signage
we'd be
would
found.
help.
So clear.
Signage would help.
So clarifying, no, clarifying is that not talking about property that is not maintained, or like if a kid is on a swing breaks, city's supposed to fix that, should have been fixed, hurts themselves, we're responsible for that. I'm just talking about if I'm in Proctor Park and I get mugged, the city is not responsible for that mugging, right?
You're absolutely incorrect.
I'm asking, it's a question.
The city of Utica paid $7 million not too many years ago to a family of a man who murdered his wife in Deerfield. In Deerfield. And somehow the Utica Police Department, because he was a police officer on limited duty, whose gun was taken away from him, who was sitting at a desk, somehow he got involved in the lawsuit that somehow it was his responsibility.
No, I'm asking.
Now, was the city
But how's
of
that
Utica
about a
liable?
park? I'm
But
talking about
what
a
you
park.
see, there's no such thing as an abstract.
I guess
lawsuit
he's looking
can
for
come-
an
it can
example
come
of
from
in the
anything.
park.
Yes, you're liable for everything that happens on city property. But ultimately, the court may not agree that you're liable. So, but would people sue you? Sure they will. They sue firemen who go to a fire. We've seen it all, Mr. Councilman. We've seen it all. So I'm just saying to you, People walking around in a place that's city property, and something happens to them, the wind blows and a branch comes off an old tree and kills them, you're gonna get sued.
Judge, it's fair to say that the city would probably be named and the corporation council would have to fight to get the city off of the.
Correct.
Pardon me?
That can happen for anything.
Anything.
It's fair to say that
We've
the city
seen-
would probably be named in the lawsuit, and the corporation council would have to defend, trying to get the city off of that lawsuit, for any instance in the city
Yeah.
property, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, you're fair game, you're the big
Yeah.
pockets.
But I got a
Yeah.
few more questions.
Right.
As soon as Judge is done,
Huh?
Council President, you have the floor, then after that, Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
All right, there seems to be, I wanted to make this statement primarily because I do deal with this. Jack does as well. We deal with this on E&A all the time. If there's some kind of accident or negligence, like you were saying, okay, if someone's in the park and something happened, like tree falls, all that different stuff, Deputy Chief Noonan was mentioning, that's one thing. Councilman Mooney was asking about crime, and I am not going to sit here and entertain the fact that the city is responsible for one person committing a crime against another person unless we can prove there was some kind of negligence involved. And the Longo case was a whole separate issue. That had to do with,
Right.
you know, an actual police department situation that they actually tried, not
Well,
somehow
But I would
city.
agree
I'm
with-
just saying, it's
Mr.
those are two
Mr.
completely
Galimi,
separate
everyth-
things.
Everything is connected and everything is disconnected.
Right.
There's no example that anybody's gonna give you that actually defines what happens later on.
Right.
I'm just saying to you that whenever you pass legislation, just as long as you're comfortable with what you did and you followed some guidelines that other people gave you, that's what the job is all about. I'm not saying that, and nobody can tell you definitively
I'm not talking about you.
what your liability is, because sometimes you find out in the weirdest way.
Yeah,
That's
and-
what I'm saying.
All right, and I do want to lend some credence to what Corporation Counsel and the judge is saying, Councilman Moody, is I have seen people try to sue us for everything. Someone can sue for whatever they want. Yeah.
Exactly. I
And
mean,
that's,
you
and
know,
that's
yeah.
the reality.
Yeah, I'm not
And
trying to
they-
ward against that. I'm just trying to say, if they don't have a standing, they don't have a standing. So if we're not responsible for those bad things that happen in the park, right? Then the signage, to me, is an unnecessary addition because we're not responsible, especially, and this is going to make a bigger point, especially if the parks is closed. The problem that I see, if we sign and say, okay, we're going to put up a sign that says the park is closed at sundown or dusk, or at sundown, and then someone says, okay, I was mugged in the park before then, right? I think that opens us up to more of a liability because we would have affirmed, ordained, and abstract in the law that the officer has to validate, I thought that this was dusk or this is when sundown was there. So we are ordaining a liability with this law. That's the first thing. The second thing is you write in your law, unless otherwise permitted, by whom? The UPD? This does nothing from where we were with the first law. Absolutely nothing. It is an abstract because it still places upon the police department the ability to decide when that timing is. And in addition to that, this came down from the mayor's office. Did UPD ask for this? We have this conversation to say, oh, we want to give the police tools. Did they ask for this? Did they say we need the tools to permit certain things? Because any example that you all have given is already illegal based upon the law. So I don't think the police asked for this. I almost am certain of that. I don't think they asked for this tool. And it's not just about the police officer. When it gets out that the parks are closed at sunset, I can imagine, I love older people or whatever, my grandmother's old. I could imagine the little old lady who has nothing to do, who sees a kid in the park, who's just gonna call the police all the time because I have kids outside in the park. And then now the police have to respond to nonsense calls because people are calling about kids being in the park after dark. We got a whole nother problem. And I'm gonna get called. Oh, you gotta do something about this park or that park because there's kids there. I mean, so I don't wanna do that, leave that abstract. I would much rather the parks close at this time. Or,
I'm with you.
yeah, thank you.
I'm with you. The park closed in the winter times, that from September or October to something, to such a time, and it opens and closes such a time in the summer hours at such a time, and that's all parks.
Thank you, that was my recommendation.
And I think you're
suggestion from
absolutely
me.
right. It makes it easier for the police officer. Who the heck knows what sunset is unless you look at your phone
Thank
and that sort of thing. I agree with you completely. I just don't want to step on anybody else's parade. But I'm saying to you, I didn't draw this thing. I prefer having an hour. The park is closed at 6:30 PM in the winter, and that goes, until May.
Yes.
Thank you. Before we move any
That's it,
further,
simple.
I'd like to ask you, what would serve you best? What does the police department need, tools-wise? Do you need a time? Do you need a dusk? Do you need what?
Specificity of the
So
time
an
would be
actual
what-
time
yeah.
from a certain
Yeah.
point to a certain point.
Yeah, it's the less subjective, probably the better.
That's what you would prefer. Wouldn't you prefer times?
Yes.
Yes, I agree with you completely.
You
I
have it
can-
next.
I agree with the councilman completely. I think for all of you, it's
You
the
have it
safest thing to do, because there's no question what 9 o'clock is.
Okay. Thank
That's
you,
it.
Judge. Councilman Beatrice, you have the floor next.
Deputy Chief, can I just ask you one question? Replying to what Councilman Moody said, is this something that the police department needs? Is this something you guys are, and I don't care where it came from. Obviously, you guys have meetings and you all work together. Is this a tool that will help you? Is it something you recommend?
Before we
And
get
I don't
any-
mean to put you on the spot
Hold
if
on.
I am.
I wasn't involved in the conversation that transpired that led to this.
Okay.
So I would have to hear the arguments for both sides from wherever this came from.
Okay.
So I really have to jump in with something because I don't know if it's being floated here. This is on the book. This is changing what's on the books. I just wanted to
Right, but we're not
reread it.
doing anything with it next, or now, and
right.
Councilman Lomedico has the floor.
All right, I'm just saying 9 o'clock is when it is now. Like, we need to look at what's there.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, cool.
Councilman Lomedico, you have the floor.
What section is it? What section you got?
Yes, thank you.
Same
Just a
section.
quick question on that.
What's it say there?
And the way it's written now, is there something in there that says unless authorized? Oh, okay. Well, if you did put that in there, you would have to, let's say they did want to leave it open, you'd have to say what department you need to contact for that. You just can't leave it open-ended like that.
Well, any
So
type
this
of
clearly
permit
needs a
has-
lot more.
Any type of permit has to be
If it's going
Well,
to
that's fine, but you should be
Right,
specific
there
about
is
it.
no permit process within that.
Neola has the floor
Right,
next.
so I mean, if you're gonna do something like that, you gotta say who you're gonna go to and how it's gonna be done.
Councilman Miola, you have the floor next.
Yeah, according to what's the suggestion on the table, they want to do some specific hours. Right now, of course, the legislation reads from 8 AM to 9 PM. I mean, it would be nice to get there early if you want to get there at 7 or at first thing in the morning at 6. So realistically, people who are walking in there at 6 AM are illegal.
Right.
So, that's possibly why the mayor says it's sunrise. So, his legislation does have some merits to it. And from sunset, like I said, whatever time that this council feels apt to close it, liability reasons, we can get sued for a ham sandwich. We all know this, guys. There's no reason for that. But whatever dedicated time, that of course recommended by our police department and affirmed by us. So, like I said, I would like to start earlier in the park. I don't know about you guys, but
So then I think we should have a committee meeting on this. That way there we can fully discuss it. We can have the police department there. We can have all of the correct people there. That way they're
we can settle this.
correct.
So next week, we can have a meeting on start at 5 o'clock.
Who's head of parks? Anybody?
Well, it can be a committee meeting of the whole. That way there we can discuss both pieces of legislation.
Mark, would you call a meeting at 5 o'clock?
Well, we got another one, don't we, for
That's why I said a committee meeting of the whole.
That means you run the meeting, right?
Yeah. But that way there we can talk about both.
I just want to address really quickly the argument that's being made, and I've heard it made in other contexts. Well, we have to disallow X because we could get sued if we don't disallow X. For that, we have to disallow everything, right? So as everybody has pointed out, people sue everybody at the drop of a hat these days. The question isn't can we be named in a lawsuit for this, it's that would we be likely to have a judgment ordered against us in such a lawsuit? That's the real question. So I could get mugged on the sidewalk in front of I could get mugged in the street in front of my house. Is the city going to be, is the city going to lose a case in court? No, it's not. So again, it's not can we be sued for that? It's that are we likely to lose a judgment in court over such a suit? That's the real question. And the idea, I mean, I think Delvin's original point is spot on. The idea that if somebody wandering through Proctor Park after dark gets mugged, that we are going to somehow be, held liable, not just named in some frivolous lawsuit, but actually held liable, makes no sense whatsoever, any more than I could, if I get mugged in front of my house, I'm going to sue the city. No one's going to hold the city liable for that. So I just would like to see us move away from this argument, because otherwise we have to make so many things illegal in case we might be named in a lawsuit. It's just kind of a bad argument.
Thank you.
That's different than what you direct your police department to do. When you do that, then you are, when you set a standard, that standard is the standard they work by. And that's the problem where if something is out of standard, that's why you get sued and may lose. I agree with you.
Order.
Municipalities get sued constantly.
speaking,
They don't
please.
always lose. They win many, many times because they're frivolous lawsuits. And I agree with you.
Thank you.
But I think when you make something the definitive and it's clear, when you can be someplace and when you cannot be there someplace, what you have to do to get into Syracuse University. You have to have mask and an identification shot. There's nothing unclear about that. They won't let you in the building. So, you know what I mean? Because it's clear and definitive. When you're clear and definitive as a legislature, and it's reasonable, it will be upheld. That's
Thank
all
you,
I can
Judge.
say. That's
With
all I
respect to time, there's three
you
more.
already have a
things.
law with times in it.
Deputy Chief, you have the floor.
So generally speaking, when I was in patrol, one of our I worked the evening shift, the responsibility was to check the parks after 9 o'clock. And generally speaking, after 9 o'clock, when we checked the parks, people weren't there for
Good
good
reasons.
reasons. It was typically to younger kids having parties, drinking, using drugs. And we would either disperse them from the park if they were cooperative, or issue a ticket if it led to other things. So that's what my experience was with the ordinance. Just
Thank you. Councilman Miola, you have the floor.
I'd just like to add on, Deputy Chief Nolan, it's about public safety and protection. So, it's very difficult for our police department to, when it's a lighted area, when you're on the sidewalks and stuff like that, it's easy for our police officers to view something that's happening wrong. When they're deep into a park and issues like this are happening, that's one of the reasons why we're trying to get a curfew in our park, because I guess, I'm not sure, I gotta check with the mayor, but I guess this has been happening, and the mayor's looking for some kind of system that help the police officers, making sure that those people are not happening, those issues are not happening in our park anymore. So it's gonna be a double-edged sword. We'd like to work it out in the committee meeting coming up.
Well, let's move on then.
Yeah.
Lastly, Councilman Beatrice.
That's fine.
You're all set?
My only point, I just wanted to say quick, this is already a law, from 6 or 8 in the morning to 9 at night.
Correct.
Okay, 9 o'clock at night is because it gets dark at 9 most of the time. Now it gets dark at 6 o'clock, so if we put 6:30, 7 o'clock, I think it's simple as that, over and done with for those 3 or 4 months during daylight savings.
So we'll talk about that at the next
Okay,
committee
thank
meeting.
you.
Lastly, ordinance number 2, ordinance approving the designation of Constant Williams as an eligible and qualified project sponsor pursuant to Article 15 of General Municipal Law for the purpose of the sale of 1,311 Francis Street in the amount of $250. Does anybody have any issues with this?
Well, that's the public hearing tonight.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm just letting you know, that's the one piece we got the public hearing on.
Clerk, where's the attached sale? It's gotta go to the committee.
No, that is the sale, that's what I'm
That is.
saying, this,
That
yeah,
is.
yeah, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's only one.
Got it, thank you.
Correct.
For that property.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying.
Anything else?
5 minutes?
If not, at this point, meeting adjourned?
Yes.
Second?
We'll start the meeting at 7:05. How's that sound?
Thank you, Mr. President.
If the room will quell, please. All right, it is 7:08, November 3rd, 2021. I'm going to call this meeting of the Common Council to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
McNeil, Burmaster, Friend, Miola, Moody, Beatrice, Williamson, Lemetico, DeBrango, all present.
All right, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first order of business is the minutes.
I'd like to move that we waive the reading of the minutes, please, Mr. President.
We have a second from DeBrango. Oh, wow. All right, I'm going to go with McNeil. She voiced it. Any opposed? All right, the minutes have been waived, the reading of the minutes. They have been posted on E-Code 360 for the council and the public to view. Thank you. We do have a common council guest, but we are going to do... Aha. There you go. Can you hear us now? Thank you. I'm sorry. We have Assistant Chief Noon on virtually today. Next order of business is public hearing. We do have a public hearing for the sale of 1311 Francis Street to Constance Williams for $250 this evening. No one signed up to speak on behalf of that property, so the public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion to remove the ordinance approving the designation of Constance Williams as eligible and qualified project sponsor pursuant to Article 15 of General Municipal Law for the purpose of the sale of 1311 Francis Street? We have a motion from McNeil, second from Burmaster. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? Okay, the public hearing was just held. It is on the floor for a vote.
9 yeas adopted.
Okay. The next order of business I'm going to bring to the agenda the United Way. Before we discuss this, would a council person from the floor like to move the proclamation?
Take the motion.
All right, we have Councilman Williamson, second from DeBrango. Did you already go full council on this?
Yes.
Okay, so the full council's on this. I'm just going to wait for people to get to their space in the packet. All right, so we do have Kristen Beckwith from the United Way here to accept this. If you'd like to come up to the table. Someone like to read this, or do you want me to read it, or?
Well, you're taking the lead on, Mr. President.
Okay, all right. You can sit down. Yeah. Oh, okay.
We'll take a picture of you with your phone with that.
Yeah, that's what we'll do after. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to let everybody know that it's Councilman Ed Buchero's daughter right here. So, former councilman.
See the resemblance?
All right, so this proclamation reads, City of Utica Department of Legislation and Common Council, Utica, New York, November 3rd, 2021. Resolution to honor the 100th anniversary of the founding of the United Way. Whereas the United Way of the Mohawk Valley was founded on November 1st, 1921 under the name The Community Chest, and whereas the mission was proposed to create a thriving community by connecting people, resources, and solutions throughout our region. And whereas while the United Way of the Mohawk Valley began as the Community Chest, striving to provide an outlet for community members to make one donation to support several local nonprofits to help their fellow neighbors, the United Way of the Mohawk Valley continues to be one of the area's top funders of local programs. And whereas the United Way of the Mohawk Valley brought 211 to our community, the most comprehensive database of local services, which is available to residents 24/7, 365 to connect them with a host of services, including access to food and shelter, veteran services, disaster relief, mental illness and well-being support, and much more. The mission remains strong and continues to foster innovative solutions to meet our most pressing challenges in human services, driving short-term and long-term results. And whereas the United Way of the Mohawk Valley has incubated and helped start the region's first licensed extended day child care center, offering reliable and safe care for children of persons furthering their education or at work. This center helps individuals become more financially stable. And whereas the United Way of the Mohawk Valley, among much other work, has also launched Volunteers United, an online platform for community members to find local opportunities to give back for nonprofits to more efficiently coordinate their efforts. And whereas the United Way of the Mohawk Valley focuses on more than just a single issue facing our community and funds dozens of vital programs and initiatives each year, improving access to health, education, and financial stability of people in need, matching unmet needs to innovative solutions which help thousands of residents each year. Therefore, be it resolved that the City of Utica Common Council proclaims that on November 1st, 2021, the United Way of the Mohawk Valley for 100 years has been bringing people, organizations, and communities together around a common cause and vision in which the United Way of the Mohawk Valley's unique position will allow the organization to continue to evolve to meet the needs of the times while addressing key issues for the next 100 years to come. So we'd like to present you with this.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Who wrote that?
Mr. President, would you call for a vote, please?
If you're okay with me touching it.
Your votes, please.
Nine yeas adopted.
Yeah, get in there, get in there. Get in there, hand it to her, hand it to her. There you go. There you go. Hand it to her. Well done.
Oh, I don't need a mic. So just a quick thank you. This is a really great milestone for us at United Way, and the city's been a great supporter of our work. One of the things I will say, we mentioned academics first, which is something that the city's been a great supporter of just recently with almost $500,000 in grant funds coming to help expand those hours to 9 o'clock at night and on weekends. If you're not familiar with that brand new child care center and how it's going to change the landscape of developing the ability for families to go to work during shifts that are later than your typical Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and helping with poverty, I would suggest you give us a call. You can give me a call. You can give my friend Deidre Harvey a call. She would love to take you on a tour and show you that space. I know we're going to be looking for some support, asking for folks to help us get the word out on some surveys so that we can make sure that a year later we're still meeting the needs that are here in our community. So I just wanted to kind of point that out and say a big thank you for this proclamation here today. And I brought you a gift. So we partnered with Utica Coffee, and they made a special birthday blend for us for the month of November. So these are nice single pot servings of our special 100th anniversary birthday blend. So I'm going to give that to everyone here.
Well done.
Thank you very much. And thank you for what you do for the community. Thank you.
Yeah, it did.
I will. Take my card, because I have a newsletter, and I'd be happy to help you with that. Yeah, welcome. Thank you. This one, there you go.
I know, look at that. They missed out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming. It was our pleasure. All right.
Thank you.
The next order of business this evening is public comment period. We have one person signed up this evening to speak. Ron Vincent, will you come forward? The Common Council has provided you a copy of Section 3244, Public Comment Period Rule. Are you in agreement with this?
Yes, I am.
Please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
My name is Ron Vincent. After sitting through your previous meeting, listening to all the talk and laws and everything about the parks, I wanted to bring up another issue that I've noticed lately that really needs some looking into. In North Utica, we have a school, Kennedy School. It's on Deerfield Drive East. Every morning I come back from my coffee at 7:30, when all the parents are dropping their kids off. I know we have a busing problem for the kids, but I see something very seriously about to happen there, and I think somebody ought to look into it. On the north side of Deerfield Drive East, the city has posted signs says no parking, stopping, or standing. And the people line up there to let their kids out to go to school, and they have to cross the street. Right across the street in front of the school, people pull up to drop their kids off. On the road itself are people going to work, buses coming through there, and these kids are just running back and forth across the street. They shouldn't be getting out of cars on one side of the street and having to cross the road in front of all this traffic. Then all of a sudden the people on the southern side that pull up to drop their children off, when they get done, the first thing they do is they pull right out in front of everybody and do U-turns. Somebody's going to get hurt, somebody very seriously, and unfortunately it's going to be a child. It's something that we really need to look into. There's a big lawn in front of the school. Maybe they should do away with their lawn and a couple of scraggly trees that are sitting there and turn it into a big parking lot, and maybe the people could pull into there and drop their children off in a safe area. There's a parking lot on the side of the school where all the teachers park. It enters from one road, Deerfield Drive East. There's an exit out onto Larchmont. People could pull in, go right around and out, not you doing U-turns, not dropping off their children in the middle of a street to get hit by a car. I don't know what to say or do other than what I've already said. I think maybe you people could look into it, maybe our police department, our legal office or whatever, but somebody ought to go over there about 7:30 in the morning and actually see what's going on. When these cars pull out and do a U-turn right in front of you, it turns into a 5-point turn, holds up all kinds of traffic. If you're behind a school bus, which is going to turn into the other parking lot to drop children off, and there's no red flashing light, and all of a sudden somebody decides he's going to pass a school bus in the other lane, everything just comes to a halt. That's it, folks. And congratulations to everybody that won their elections. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, can I just respond?
Yes, you may.
So Councilman Beatrice has reached out to the Utica Police Department, and we'll be doing a traffic study in conjunction with the school district to try and alleviate some of the problems up there.
Okay.
But, it's a problem throughout the city. All these schools initially were built as neighborhood schools, where the majority of kids walk to school. They weren't built for busing and parents dropping kids off. So it's really a problem citywide. We try and address it as best we can, but a lot of these schools, it's very difficult to find a solution that's best for everybody. But we are looking into this. Councilman Beatrice did reach out to us, and we'll be working on it.
Thank you. I was actually going to move on to reports from the city officers anywhere. I'm not sure who it is, but if everyone could turn their ringers off their phones, would be greatly appreciated. Reports from the city officers. Do you have anything else this evening to report?
I think that's all I had. We had a very, the weather was a part of it, but Halloween was very safe. I'd like to thank all the families and kids who, I don't think we had one problem with trick-or-treaters. It was busy from about 4 to 7 o'clock, a lot of families, but everything went well. And just like to thank everyone who participated in that for behaving. And it's a lot different than when I was a kid.
All right.
And leave it at that.
All right. Thank you. Assistant Chief Noon. Do you have anything to report this evening? Thank you very much. Thank you for attending the meeting. Corporation Counsel.
Nothing to report.
All right. I believe that's all we have this evening for reports from the city officers. We don't have any communications from the mayor this evening. Do we have any cash reports?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Mike, can I just one more thing?
Yeah.
A lot of the council people requested, we have some pending legislation that involves signs and also signs that don't need to be legislated that we're trying to put up. I've been following up with Mark Sokolowski. We're having there's been a delay because of the whole supply issue.
Yes.
He's out of a lot of signs, so just trying to be patient. We haven't forgotten about you. You're in the queue, but he's doing his best to try and keep up on these requests, but the materials are an issue right now.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right. First District. Majority Leader and Councilperson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one simple thing. I just wanted to say congratulations to everyone who ran. Whether you won or lost, it takes a certain person to throw your hat in the ring. It's not fun. It's a lot of hard work, and anyone who is willing to do it and serve for this wonderful community here, I tip my hat to you. So with that being said, congratulations to everyone who ran, won or lost. Thank you.
Do you have any legislation you'd like to move this evening? No? All right. Second District, Councilman Burmaster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a proposed ordinance number 10 for the sale of a public auction. And it reads, Ordained that pursuant to Utica Chapter 8.031, establishing the procedure for the sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes, the Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following property, which was sold at public auction on September 30th, 2021. It was approved by the Board of Estimate and Thank you. Apportionment on November 1st, 2001. Tax number 318-21-144. The address of the property, 909 Kellogg Ave. Purchaser was Amy Roaches, and the purchase price was $4,500.
We have a second from DeBrango. Your votes.
9 yeas adopted.
I have a second sale of property sold at public auction. It was ordained that pursuant to the Utica Chapter 8.031, establishing the procedure for the sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes, the Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following property, which was sold at public auction on September 30th, 2021, and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment, thank you, on November 1st, 2021. Tax map number 3-12-17, property address 1408 Kellogg Ave. The purchaser was Ronald Rickey, and the purchase price was $46,000. I'd like to make a motion that.
DeBrango's got the second on it.
Thank
Your
you.
votes.
9 yeas adopted.
Yeah, and I like to make a special thank you. I had a granddaughter born on the 21st of October, and she was a preemie. And she ended up being in the hospital 13 days. She did well. She's home today, first day. It's kind of nice to have her home. Her name's Sabrina. Even though she was a preemie, she still weighed 9 pounds, 1 ounce. So Burmasters are big kids. So yeah, I just want to reach out to St. Luke's and thank for all the care. And another shout out to my son. He had an operation yesterday, and I just wish him the best. He had a foot surgery, and he can't keep his feet out of his mouth. So I just want to reach out to the two of them and thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Third District, Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Well, that would be a tough act to follow, by definition. I just want to say one thing about paving. We're getting really close to the end, and I know that a lot of people in South Utica, I get a lot of calls asking, like, when are they going to finish paving? People have begun to be concerned that when the snow falls, they'll have to plow, and of course the manhole covers, et cetera, are still raised. And I do know that the Department of Engineering and the contractors are working as hard as they can to get that final top coat down. The weather has gone against them a little bit. They've also been doing a great deal of the handicap the handicap curbs at intersections. They've done a lot of those in South Utica, and they are getting close to doing that. Again, the rain slows them down. So I appreciate everybody's patience with that. We're getting really close. We did a lot of paving this year, which is great. And of course, but so the double edge of that is that it means we go late into the year to finish it. But we are almost finished, and I'm very pleased with how much paving we've gotten done across the city. With that, I have two pieces of legislation this evening, Mr. President. First, I have ordinance number 14, sale of property sold at public auction, ordained that pursuant to the city charter, section 8.031, establishing the procedure for the sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes, the Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following property, which was sold at public auction on September 30, 2021, and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment on November 1, 2021. Tax map numbers 329.15-2-16 and 329.15-2-2. This is the French Road. This is two separate lots. This is the cemetery on French Road, purchased by David Giglio for $2,000.
A second from Miola. Your votes.
9 E's adopted.
Thank you very much. And then I have ordinance number 12, sale of property sold at public auction, ordained that pursuant to the Utica City Charter, section 8.031, establishing the procedure for the sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes, the Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following property, which was sold at public auction on September 30th, 2021, and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment on November 1, 2021. Tax map number 329.12-2-37.2/109, and this is 10 Fowery Drive, to Russell Pelly for $75,000.
Second.
Second from Williamson. Your votes.
Nine E's adopted.
And that's all I have this evening, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. 4th District and President Pro Tem Frank Miola, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to start with ordinance number 2. It's amending it to come in compliance with the actual street signs that have been there for over a year. To be it ordained, section 2-16-357, Schedule B, through streets be amended as follows. Tilden Ave from intersection Eagle to Tilden, where we are striking out to the intersection of Bleecker to Tilden. Further be ordained that the proper signage be erected. Of course, that's not necessary.
Second from DeBrango, your votes.
Nine E's adopted.
Mr. President, I request a Thursday rule waiver on the remaining legislation, sir.
We have a second from Friend. No one's opposed. It's waived.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to go to ordinance number 13 for the sale of property from public auction to be ordained pursuant to City Charter 8.031, establishing the procedure of sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes. The Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following properties, which was sold at public auction September 30th, 2021, approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment on November 1st, 2021. Tax map 330.8-5-17, property address 1345 Leach Street. Okie dokie. Buy high. Hey, oh, okay, I hope I'm close. For the purchase price of $90,000.
Second from DeBrango. Your votes.
Nine E's adopted.
I have one piece of legislation remaining, Mr. President. Resolution number 16, the reappointment of Richard Karam. To be it resolved, section 12-26-E, Public Authorities Law of New York State, of the Common Council hereby nominates the following individual as a candidate for reappointment for the Upper Mohawk Valley Regional Water Board beginning January 1st, 2022. Richard Karam for a 3-year period, expiring December 31st, 2024. Further be resolved, the City of Utica is hereby directed to transmit the name of the council nominee to the clerk of the county legislator and retain records specifying the date of delivery thereof.
Second.
Second from Williamson, your votes.
Nine yeas adopted.
Mr. President, thank you for the time.
All right, sounds good. Fifth District, Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to, United Way's not here, but I want to commend them for their work. Academics First is in my district, and that daycare is a phenomenal asset to many people, working class folks who can use the daycare later in the evenings, closer toward that late night hour. I also want to talk about signs. Signs is one of the biggest calls as a council person. Everybody wants a sign, so I know Mark is inundated with signs, and so it's good to have that information out. But in looking at Elm Street, I'm going to get with the police department. I couldn't see any stop sign on Elm Street. I think going from James all the way close to like Hobart. So
would you like to start the legislation?
No, I wanted to ask Councilman Moody about this. I think I may have, Deputy Chief Noonan, this Elm Street, this is the same thing we were talking about the other day too. Yeah, I just want to know, make sure you talk to
right, yeah.
Deputy
So I'm
Chief
gonna.
about it.
I don't know if it's a legislative thing or a thing of just stop signs get destroyed over time and not replaced. So I want to.
Our clerk could check the,
I'll
check the
look
record for it and
into
we'll go from
that.
there.
Yeah.
But as any street with no stop signs, folks are flying down that road, and I want to do something about that sooner rather than later. I want to refer to committee ordinance number 15. Frank, you want it in budget?
Which committee would you like it in?
I would second it. We can put in the finance committee, Mr.
Yes.
President.
Okay.
I want to put in finance committee.
Any opposed? All right. The committee.
And I want to discharge a piece of legislation, and I will reintroduce it in January. I want to do discharge ordinance number 2 in the Public Safety Committee, the multiple dwelling surveillance legislation.
Second from Miola. Any opposed to discharging the multiple dwelling surveillance legislation? Discharged.
That is all, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, right before we go to Councilman Beatrice, I'm gonna take a piece of my appeals. There is a stop sign legislated on Grove, and they've got it torn up completely for the ADA compliance, and that's why the right smack dab in the middle. That's a racetrack on Elm Street. Just so, yeah, because they got them all out right now. It's crazy.
Grove, we were looking at additional stop signs.
Yeah.
Too.
Mm-hmm. 6th District, Councilman Beatrice, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, first thing today, I was, I guess it was the first time ever I was invited to go on a sweep of North Utica. It was a caravan sweep. I was with Dave Short and the mayor, and I just want to say it was quite informative. We went through, started out on Briarcliff where we started, and we went all the way to the other end of town, and just going over some stuff, able to show him, and Mr. Short pointed out showed a lot of the work and money that the city spent in North Utica. I was able to, probably wanted to get me out of the car after an hour because I just had his ear a lot of times about a lot of stuff that I want to do, so I wanted to thank them for that. I'd like to bring out proposed resolution number 1. And this is about something that was in my youth. I grew up in North Utica, and there was always, it was Seymour Pool, but actually there was a plaque on it. It was named Esther Fitzgerald Pool. And it was brought to my attention by a couple constituents that the new pool is just called North Utica Pool. And, you know, there, like a lot of people that are honored, like I know like the Proctors, for example, there's a lot of people that are honored, and after they passed, and this is the case with Mrs. Fitzgerald. And I just think that it's very, very important to keep history the way it is, that she was honored. she did not get to actually see the honor, which would have been a great thrill to her. So it's kind of important probably to her, her family and stuff that, you know, we keep, you know, her name up. So with that, I'm gonna bring out the proposed resolution number 1, renaming the municipal pool in North Utica, the M. Esther Fitzgerald Swimming Pool, to honor her public service in the city of Utica. Whereas, on June 16th, 1965, Common Council of the City of Utica did adopt a resolution sponsored by 9th District Councilman Gordon Hathaway, naming the municipal swimming pool located in North Utica as the M. Esther Fitzgerald Swimming Pool. And whereas Mrs. Fitzgerald, after retiring for public service in 1960, continued to show interest in the affairs of the city of Utica by serving in unofficial capacity in several fields of civic responsibility until her death on September 9th, 1963. And whereas the swimming pool in North Utica that was named in her honor has been replaced by a new swimming pool, and the Common Council does hereby wish to continue that tribute of June 16th, 1965, whereas under the leadership and guidance, the playground in the city of Utica were expanded from 5 to 22, plus the construction of 3 swimming pools for the use of the people in the greater Utica area, together with the construction of many wading pools for the use of the children in the Utica area. And whereas Mrs. Fitzgerald was one of New York State's first municipal recreation administrators, served in such a capacity with dignity, distinction, and was a charter member of the New York State Recreation Society and the American Recreation Society. And whereas, under her wise leadership and guidance, many community center activities were conducted in Utica school buildings for the benefit of the citizens of the city of Utica. And whereas Mrs. Fitzgerald was awarded the highest award that New York State Recreation Society bestows on a person, namely the Professional Accomplishment Award. And now that it be resolved that the municipal pool in North Utica should once again be and hereby known as the M. Esther Fitzgerald Swimming Pool, as a continuing recognition of her devoted and unstinting service to the people of the city of Utica, New York. And be it further resolved that the plaque be created in her name and said newly refurnished pool, so as to perpetuate her memory for the development and recreational facilities of our city, for her devoted leadership as a person so greatly respected by the community, which has been foreshadowed or forgotten. Has not been foreshadowed or forgotten. So we are going to be doing, you guys will be getting it. I know we're probably going to go full council on this, and you will all know when the plaque will be put up, and I'd like you guys to come, everybody to come if possible.
Second.
We have a second from, does the council want full council?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, put everyone on there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your votes.
9 yeas adopted.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I'd like to pull proposed ordinance number 3, intersection where stop required. Ordained that section 2-16-358, Schedule C, intersection where stop required, be amended to include the following: Bleecker Street and Tilden Ave, all corners, 4-way stop at each intersection. Be it further ordained that the proper signage be erected where necessary.
We have a second from Miola. Your votes.
Okay,
9 yeas adopted.
okay, proposed ordinance number 9, sale of property sold at a public auction. Ordained that pursuant to the Utica Charter, 8-031, establishing the procedure for sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes, the Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following property, which was sold at public auction on September 30th, 2021, approved by the Board of Estimate and apportionment on November 1st, 2021. tax map 307.5-168, 807 Utica Road, Juan Carlos Byers, for $40,000.
Second from DeBrango. Your votes.
9 yeas adopted.
Okay, I got proposed ordinance number 8, sale of property sold at a public auction, ordained that pursuant to the Utica Charter, 8.031, establishing the procedure for sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes. The Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following property, which was sold at public auction September 30th, 2021, approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment on November 1, 2021. 308.17-5-45, 418 Woodburn Drive, Murick, Eldon, for $51,000.
Second from Miola. Your votes.
Okay.
9 yeas adopted.
Lastly, ordinance number 7, sale of property sold at a public auction, ordained that the pursuant to the Utica Charter 8.031, establishing the procedure for sale of real property acquired for unpaid taxes. The Common Council does hereby approve the sale of the following property, which was sold at public auction on September 30th, 2021, and approved by the Board of Estimate and Apportionment on November 1st, 2021, tax map 307.19-3-5, 413 D-Land Drive, Murick, Eldon, for $65,000.
Second from Miola. Your votes.
9 yeas adopted.
That's all I have tonight, Mr. President.
All right, ordinance 13 's still out there. Is anyone pulling that out at some point? All right. Did we do 13 yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
We did?
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to check it off the list. Sorry.
That's all.
Yeah. That is it. Councilman at large and minority leader, Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to congratulate everybody who was successful yesterday. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilman at large, Jack Lemetico, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to say that as well. Congratulations to all the winners. Thank you.
All right. Council at large, Brango.
Yeah, I know we talked about the candidates, but I want to talk about the voters. I'm glad they came out. It was a pretty decent day. It got a little chilly there at times. They exercised their right to vote, so that was a pretty good showing for any major candidates in federal race and things of that nature. So I just want to thank them for coming out and exercising the right to vote. I think that'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'd like to take a minute to also thank everybody, but I wanted to get in just 2 minutes. The other day, someone said to me, how's it going today? Going back and forth over coffee. They go, oh, I wish it wasn't political season. And I was joking around about the fact that nowadays, like, it's political season 24/7, 365 days a year. And I wanted to just say that there's always a difference between politics and government. And I've always seen not only this council, but all the prior councils that I either presided over and even councils before that in this city, as soon as that election's over, we get back to governing. And, there's the elections. Once the elections are over, people take their seats and they get to work for the city. And I just want to say that I appreciate that because it's nice to watch everyone work together regardless of what we had to do to get in these seats in the first place. So thank you very much, and congratulations to all of the candidates. Someone did say win or lose, but I kind of look at it as if you ran a good race, there is no losing because you got out there, you connected with people, and you made a difference getting your message out there regardless. So congratulations to everyone who participated in this election, and I look forward to seeing the final results. Have a good evening.
Motion to close.
Motion to
All right.
adjourn.